Okay. Uh, today's topic is Ambedkar and Gandhi as a journalist. So I am presenting my screen to you. They're saying Dr. Ambedkar and Mohanchand Karamchand Gandhi were contemporary journalists. Gandhi used to write through Young India in the 1920s and then through Harijan in 1930s, whereas Dr. Ambedkar has done his writing through Mook Nayak, Bahishkrit Bharat, Janta and Prabuddha Bharat during the same time. Many a time there has been cross writing by both of them referring to the writings of their respective journals. So what it has been said that both Mr. Gandhi and Mr. Ambedkar, Dr. Ambedkar, they were contemporary, means they were present at the same time, but they were writing for the different journals. Mr. Gandhi used to write there saying for the Young India and then through the Harijan. And Dr. Ambedkar was writing through Mook Nayak and Bahishkrit Bharat. Janta and Prabuddha Bharat. So these were the different journals. They have said that it has happened that a lot of time that they have written their articles or their views at the same time different journals. Today, Dalit journalism literature has grown considerably. The whole of it has originated from the writings of Dr. Ambedkar. Dr. Ambedkar is the sole originator of Dalit journalism and Dalit literature. They have said that like Dr. Ambedkar was always in support of for providing the required support to the Dalits. So he has written a lot of Dalit journalism and Dalit literature, and he is the sole originator of the Dalit journalism. They are saying he is indeed the single most inspiring factor for the statewide fast emerging Dalit literature because he has involved everybody through his writing that what exactly is the situation in the country of Dalits, and this is how he has talked about the different reforms. As part of his struggle spanning over 4 decades, Dr. Ambedkar always used print media of his own as one of the instruments to achieve his goal of emancipating the untouchables. So, during his fight for letting the people know about the condition of untouchables, they are saying that Dr. Ambedkar was actually fighting a fight at that time. Even in 1920, when he had just begun his struggle, he launched a Marathi fortnightly Mook Nayak, the leader of the dumb. Dr. Ambedkar had written editorials for this magazine. This magazine survived just for about a year and a half. He started with the Mook Nayak, but could not that the journal could not survive for a longer period of time. But he started giving information about the untouchables or the Dalits in this magazine through his literature. This magazine survived just about a year and a half. The magazine could be started with the financial assistance from the Shahu Chhatrapati Maharaj of Kolhapur. In April 1927, Dr. Ambedkar started the magazine called Bahishkrit Bharat. So later on, the second literature he started was Bahishkrit Bharat. This time he has more organized. He had bought over a printing press through public donations. The press was named as Bharat Bhushan Printing Press. So second time he was more planned. He did not just survived on the donation. I mean the sympathy or the donation of someone else's. He collected donations, but he used in a planned way. So he bought one of the press, which was known as Bharat Bhushan Printing Press. During the publication of Bahishkrit Bharat, Dr. Ambedkar personally took a lot of care to see that every issue has a very high standard of writing. So now he was very serious. So he was seeing that every issue personally that does not have any kind of a problem in it. This magazine was published for about 2 years. In 1930, Dr. Ambedkar started a new journal named Janta. This journal you're talking about, which was published through Bharat Bhushan Printing Press, Bahishkrit Bharat, it went for 2 years. But then again, he started a new journal that was named as Janta. This magazine lived for 26 years. So this was a hit. This magazine went for 26 years. After that, the magazine's name was changed to Prabuddha Bharat. So after 26 years, the name of the magazine was changed from Janta to Prabuddha Bharat. The name of the magazine which Dr. Ambedkar published had the reflection and the emphasis on the direction of his movement at a particular time. He changed the name of Janta to Prabuddha Bharat when he was in a process of launching the massive historic conversion to Buddhism. So why this has been changed? They have said that because the impact of Buddhism was somewhere came. So that's how the name of the journal from Janta to Prabhuddha Bharat was named. Dr. Ambedkar, in spite of his busy schedule with the political activities and his various assignments as a member of Viceroy's Council or the chairman of the Indian Constitution Drafting Committee, found time to write for his magazines. So he was a very busy person because he was involved into politics. He was the member of Constituent Assembly who was drafting the Constitution for India. Although, so he was taking his time out for this thing. He even used to send editorials while he was overseas during the roundtable conferences and during other tours outside India. So, though he was outside sometime for the roundtable conferences, but he did not take his interest. He cannot be far away from his interest. So that's why he even send his editorials from the offshores. The standard of the writing was of utmost importance to him. He used to prepare editorials by writing all through the nights, but never compromised on the quality of writing. So he was very good. You can say that writer because he was not compromising with it. Means he was very much conscious about like nothing can be written wrongly in his journals or in his writings. A good deal of his writing and research has been done on the journalistic aspect of Dr. Ambedkar. Two PhDs have so far been awarded on the topic Dr. Ambedkar and journalism. One to Dr. Gangadhar Patwane of Aurangabad University in late 1960s and the second to Dr. Shoraj Singh Bechen of Jawaharlal University, New Delhi. Dr. Bechen's research topic was effect of Dr. Ambedkar's journalism on Dalit literature. So they are saying so far there are two people who has been awarded the PhD with the topic of Dr. Ambedkar's relation with journalism. So because Dr. Bechen has written that the effect of Dr. Ambedkar's journalism on Dalit literature, that was the issue he took in his research. There are other numerous books like Patrekar Ambedkar by Dr. Gangadhar Patwane, Lok Patrekar Ambedkar by Sukram Hivrale have been published. Dr. Ambedkar's editorials of Bahishkrit Bharat have also been published in Marathi by Ratnakar Ganvir. So also the small articles put lake in Marathi. Today, Dalit journalism literature has grown considerably. The whole of it has originated from the writings of Dr. Ambedkar. They are saying yes, today we can see that the Dalit literature has developed, flourished a lot. But if we see the roots, it has started from Dr. Ambedkar. Dr. Ambedkar is the sole originator of Dalit journalism and Dalit literature. He is indeed the single most inspiring factor for the statewide fast emerging Dalit literature. Apart from being a national leader and a social reformer, Gandhi, now we have come up to discussion of Mr. Gandhi's role. Apart from being a national leader and social reformer, Gandhi was a great communicator. More than anyone else, he recognized that communication is the most effective tool to shape opinion and mobilize popular support. He was successful because he had a latent skill in communication that surfaced in South Africa, where he, where he had gone initially to set up practice as a lawyer. This gave him the clue to rally millions of his countrymen when he returned to India. So this is the early life of Mr. Gandhi. They have said that he was a good communicator. He has understood the importance of communication skills. That if you want to approach to the mob, if you want to approach to the masses, so communication skills is very much required. Until you will not master yourself into the communication skills, it will be hard for you to send your voice to the masses. So first, initially, he was in South Africa. He went over there to practice his law, and this has helped him to talk to the people on masses, you can say that, and on a more number of basis. Gandhi's journalism belonged to an era where there was neither radio nor television. So, such was the power of his soul communication that whatever he said and wrote reached the farthest corner of this country within days and to the entire world there. And there, he was very, they said he was very good communicator, he was very good writer, because if we talk about the time of Mr. Gandhi, no radio, no television was very famous. So, the only medium which was at that time prevailed, that was writing newspapers or the writing journals. So he wrote in those journals, he wrote through the newspapers, and his magical writing was reached farthest. Matlab, to the every corner of the country, and not in the country they are saying in to the entire world. So he was so famous in his writing. Gandhi, in a journalistic career spanning nearly 4 decades, editing 6 journals. So, as per his career, we can say that he spent almost six spans, nearly 4 decades, sorry, and he edited 6 journals, none including Harijan and Navjivan. At first, could boast a circulation of more than a few thousand copies, but such was Gandhi's grasp of the basics of mass communication that he ensured his daily outpouring of heart and soul reached all. They're saying his journals like Harijan and Navjivan were very famous and circulation was almost in thousands. But if you really understand, he actually communicated through these journals to the entire country. So it was reaching to the every corner of the country. If one were to ask the question as to who came first, Gandhi the freedom fighter or Gandhi the media crusader, the truth would be that latter predated the former. Means that Gandhi journalist was the first thing it came in existence, and it lasts for almost 20 years. In less than a few months' stay in South Africa, Gandhi realized the need to become a journalist to fight for the rights of the Indian community. Although he went to South Africa to become a lawyer to do the practice of his law, but he realized that he has a potential of becoming a journalist. So that's how he pursued this career, and he started, this career. And because he was feeling that if he would start writing or he will become journalist, he can fight for the rights of the Indian community over there, because lot of discrimination was going on at that time, and he brought the highest qualities the profession could boast of: courage in the face of adversity, unswearing adherence to truth, pursuit of public causes, and objectivity in presentation. So these are so many of the things he has touched in his writings. He started talking about northern people. He has talked about like that we should adhere to the truth. He talked about the cases or the issues of the public interest or the public causes. So these were the different things he brought in front of the people. His first paper, Indian Opinion, was started in South Africa. So the first paper he started, that was Indian Opinion, and it has started in South Africa, not in India. In order to vandalize the grievances of Indians and mobilize public opinion in their favor, Gandhi started writing and giving interviews to newspapers. He focused on open letters and letters to editors, but soon realized that occasional writings and hospitality of newspapers were inadequate for the political campaign he had launched. Earlier, he started trying to make the licensing with the newspapers. So, but later he realized this thing that this is not a right way. He himself should jump into this thing, into the journalism, and he should start writing by his own. His letters to the editors of South African dailies are a lesson to all journalists on how to fight injustice in a country where the laws are loaded against one section of the people without giving offense to the rulers themselves. He fought in South Africa because there was discrimination over there going on between blacks and white people over there. So he was in support of blacks. So he raised voice over there to this discrimination that people should not be judged on the base of his color. We are not discriminating that whites are bad, but he said that we are advocating that we should not, give preference on the basis of a color or a race of a person. So that is how he raised his voice in South Africa, and he supported black over there. That's how it has got a great respect in South Africa to Gandhi. He needed a mouthpiece to reach out to the people, and so he launched Indian Opinion. It served the purpose of a weekly newsletter which disseminated the news of the week among the Indian community. So he was supporting over the Indian community because Indian were also called as blacks. So that is how he was supporting over there through the Indian Opinion. It became an important instrument of education. Through the columns of the newspaper, Gandhi tried to educate the readers about sanitation, self-discipline, and good citizenship. He wrote not only to calling names to some specific community. He was basically telling people that we should be a good citizen, and he talked about the sanitation. He talked about self-discipline. So these kind of things he took through his writings. Gandhi learned in South Africa how important the press and public opinion could be in politics, and had learned to use the written word most effectively. So this is what he has learned from South Africa. This is we can say that that was his preparation, and that is how he has come back to India. He promptly went there and investigated the issues and produced a report that would be the envy of the greatest investigative journalist anywhere in the world. After Champaran, it was only a matter of time before the Mahatma took to journalism as his most potent weapon of satyagraha. So whatever he was doing, he was always a journalist by heart. And whether it was the Champaran, whether it's a satyagraha, they are saying that, but journalism was always flowing in his blood. As coincidence would have it, Gandhi was persuaded to take over the editorship of Young India, simultaneously started to edit and write in Navjivan, then a Gujarati monthly. The two journals, Young India and Navjivan, were used by him to ventilize his views and to educate the public on Satyagraha, as he was into a lot of other, works. So, but we can say this thing that through his journals, he took the help of telling people about his views on on different things like Satyagraha. We can say this thing. Satyagraha was what basically Satyagraha was the way you can say that the people should demonstrate or agitate. He was always into into view of a favor of that we should support non-violent medium or ways. He was never in support of violent means. So Satyagraha was also part of it, that he was not trying to hurt anybody, but he was on the way of a truth. That is his views, and he has disseminated those views through his journals Navjivan and uh, Young India. Gandhi's writing in it were translated and published in all the Indian languages newspaper. They are saying his writings were so impressive that we cannot say that Gandhiji has written only in one newspaper. He wrote in all languages. Means his writings were translated in all the newspapers. Later, Navjivan was published in Hindi, as Gandhi was convinced that Hindi would be the national language of free India. The Mahatma Crusade for the repeal of the Press Act of 1910 was a unique piece of journalism. So we can say this thing now, as he came from South Africa, he was very successful over there because he was a very good orator, he was very good writer, so he was presenting his views very effectively to the rulers of that time over there. So the same zeal, same enthusiasm he brought back in India, and he started the same thing because whatever it was happening in South Africa, what was happening in South Africa? There was discrimination going over there. A lot of rights were not given to the blacks at the time. Whites were discriminating with us. So Indian community was also, we can say that, a part of a black community, and they were also suffering in the same, we can say. So he fought over there. He wrote a lot of writings over there, and he let the people aware over there that you should start fighting for your rights, that human is a human, we cannot judge it by a race, color, these kind of things. So Indians, blacks, they were sufferer over there. So he was emerged as a person who was a leader for them. So when this wave it went successful in South Africa, he came to India, and the same method he adopted in South Africa, he adopted here in India. He started writing over there. He started writing in a different journals, as it has written here, Harijan, Navjivan, or Young India. So these were the ways through which he actually told people, that people means the Britishers, that you cannot suppress us by the way of a color. It was written in the trains in India that Indians and dogs are not allowed. We were not allowed in the restaurants, we were not allowed into the trains, we were not allowed into the public places, we were not allowed at the places where white people were sitting. So he was the one who started fighting for this thing, that you cannot discriminate on the base of a color, that if we are black, you cannot say this thing that white race is the most intelligent race. So through this thing, this is the work of Gandhi that the whole world is praising to him. Mahatma's crusade for the repeal of the Press Act of 1910 was a unique piece of journalism. He was telling the rulers that it was in the best interest of the government to repeal the law. So when the government, the white people, they were trying to suppress Indian press. So he convinced in a such a way to them that it is in their best interest that they should take that law back. They cannot, make that press act of 1910 issue. He was convincing them that is the best interest of the government to repeal the law. Issue after issue of Young Indian Navjivan carried samples of Gandhi's journalistic genius, which blended seemingly earnest appeal to the government to do what was just and righteous. His writings, which were coming every week, and different issues of Young Indian Navjivan, it pressurized the government that they should do what is right. Young India Navjivan folded up in January 1932 when Gandhi was imprisoned for a long spell. So Navjivan, they are saying, or Young India was folded in 1932 when government was fed up from the efforts of Mahatma Gandhi because this thing it has come up in their mind now India is going to get freedom. We got freedom in 1947 and 1932, so it has just in a year of 10, 12 years we can say this thing. So they have realized this thing that this man is going to do something, so they imprisoned him. And at that time, we can say that his work was of Young Indian Navjivan was stopped. In 1933, Gandhi started Harijan Bandhu Chair Harijan Bandhu, Harijan Sevak in English, Gujarati, and Hindi respectively. Try to see this thing. A lot of people. बेटा थोड़ा सा स्पेस बना लेना सामने बस. Lot of people astonished, but I'll let you know this thing that he wrote actually, or he worked for the sake of untouchables throughout his life. Look at his writings. He was always writing for the Harijans. He was always writing for untouchables. He was always writing for the minorities like Muslims. So he was always in support of that every deprived community should come out. So we can see that through his writings like Harijan Bandhu, Harijan Sevak in English, Gujarati, Hindi, all the languages. These newspapers were the vehicles of crusade against untouchability and poverty in rural areas. So he was morely focusing on untouchability. That is how he Dr. B.R. Ambedkar. These people when they worked on to the on the constitution, and when they added the points of reservation into the Indian constitution, they actually went through the writings of Mr. Gandhi as well, and they were aware of what was the situation at the time. For now, if you talk about in present time, we can say that everything is sorted out, like everybody is the same over here. People are educated, people could understand this thing, but that was a time when it was a need for them to write it because people were not understanding, because a lot of things, a lot of practices from the past were into their mind. These papers published no advertisement. Even then, they enjoyed wide circulation. Means they were not having any kind of advertisement into their paper, although their circulation was very high. His note of defense and sacrifice gave a new stimulus to the evolution of press as a weapon of satyagraha. So he took a lot of, as I've told you that satyagraha or a lot of other movements he made, but being the journalist, he always reached to the heart of a people. Right now we are in today's era. We could talk about like a lot of things which we think that he was not good at, but if you read his writings and you try to be on that time, you would be very much impressed from his personality, because he was such a gentleman. He was not trying to hurt anybody. He was wanting that everybody should be same. Human means human. It should not have any of the religion, color, caste. Nothing should be discussed, or nothing should be brought up at front. So the one thing that should be common among everybody, that he was wanting, that we are human beings. Gandhi's approach to journalism was totally devoid of ambitions. To him, it was not a vocation to earn his livelihood. He was not working for money. He was not working for money in journalism. It was a mean to serve the public. He was thinking that it is a medium of serving people, to give the service to the people. Gandhi believed that it was wrong to use a newspaper as a means of earning a living. He felt that running a newspaper was a task having such a bearing on public welfare that to undertake them for earnings one's livelihood would defeat the primary aim behind them. They are saying if we would start, he was into a view of that if the journalist would start believing that this is the medium of their livelihood, so the actual aim it will be destroyed. Actual aim of journalism is the public welfare. When further a newspaper is treated as a means of making profits, the result is likely to be serious malpractices. This is what we are seeing. He said that when a money will be involved into journalism, the malpractices it will start. People would indulge themselves into the corruption. He also said that newspapers were meant primarily to educate the people and familiarize them with the contemporary history. They are saying the main purpose of journalism is what? Newspapers are written to aware the people, to inform them, to educate them. It was never made to make money. So this was, as per his thought, this was the primary purpose of it. So in 1956 himself he wrote, so long as Indian Opinion, the first newspaper he edited, was under my control, the changes in the journal were indicative of changes in my life. The Indian Opinion in those days, like the Young India and the Navjivan today, was a mirror of part of my life. He said that if you have seen my writings in Navjivan, in Young India, in all those writings, these were the mirror of life. If you read those things, you could easily understand my life. The way I was leading my life, I was writing the same in my newspapers. So I was not differentiating. I was not different. Like in front of the people, I was different, which is happening these days. And after that, you were different. People show sympathy at the front, and when you turn your back, they would start laughing on you. So he said that he was not that kind of a person. Whatever he was, you could see that in the newspapers in his writings. In recent years, there has been a resurgence of writing on Ambedkar, caste, Dalit politics. This surge is taking place primarily in the context of rising radical Dalit political activism in India. These writings have, however, appeared mainly at the backdrop of current issues which has largely affected the course of the anti-caste Dalit Bahujan movement. He said that he was the main cause of, he was the person of, we can say that, who actually evolved people, who actually motivated people that, you know, this is something bad is going on with these number of people. They are also human beings, so they should have the same rights. One of their main features is the focus on Ambedkar's political and social philosophy. His ideas consequently have not only shaped the contemporary discussion on caste and Dalit politics, but have deepened our understanding of our society, its history, its politics. Yet little is known about his journalistic legacy. So they're saying his writings were providing the information about our own society, our own history. I told you, like a lot of time people ask, they say that there should not be reservation in India. You know, these kind of a questions it raised. But if you read his writings, you could understand the situation was really bad. If he has not written down on these things, it could have been worsened. So that is why he supported that. Actually, we should give a reservation. He was supporting this thing. That is how Mr. Ambedkar, Dr. Ambedkar has, you know, talked about. This was the only way that we could, you know, brought up the, you know, that society. The newspaper Ambedkar was associated, have largely contributed in disseminating radical political ideas and motivated as a change in society. The study of the newspapers help us contextualize and trace the history of Dalit political discourse, issues of caste violence, representation, and religious fundamentalism. So we were the country who was having a big enemy in ourselves. If we talk about in case of South Africa, the enemy was only one. Enemy means the people, those who were in favor of that one color should be, you know, on top. But in India, situation was different. We were fighting with the Britishers, and secondly, we were having a main enemy in ourselves because a lot of things were stopping us to grow: religion, caste, creed, color. So these were the enemies of ours. So these two things Indians were fighting. Most contemporary writings on Ambedkar and Dalit politics largely ignore the significance of Dalit newspapers and their role in the history of the Dalit movement. The newspapers associated with Ambedkar are repositories of vast information on the history of Dalit political activism, which is why it's a pity that Ambedkar's role as a journalist and editor has been largely ignored. Unlike his scholarly writings, which were written in English, his journalistic work are published in Marathi. So they're saying people, think this thing that there were a lot many issues, which could be, presented in front of the society. Those who have been written by Dr. Ambedkar, but they're saying these were ignored. These were ignored, so this is the reason behind like we could not get, best of his writings from Dr. Ambedkar's writings. Dalit newspaper in Maharashtra are the legacy of Jyotiba Phule's Satya Shodhak movement. It was only after the establishment of Deen Bandhu Bhai Phule in the late 19th century that Dalit newspaper began to crop up. Prominent Dalit leader of the pre-Ambedkar era, such as Shivram, Janma Kamble, and Kisan Fauji Bansore, founded newspapers which were dedicated primarily to the cause of untouchability. So they talk about like their writings were more towards untouchability. They're trying to aware people that this is wrong, this is wrong, this is wrong. Human being means a human being. So he started Mook Nayak, which ran for 3 years. We discussed these things that he came up with a Bishkar Bharat, then it has become a Prabuddha Bharat. So these were some of the writings in which Ambedkar paid his contribution. And one of the very fascinating aspects of Ambedkar's journalism is manifested in his firm belief that journalism should not blindly cater to the masses. Blindly. He used the word blindly. Journalism means journalist should always open up his eyes, ears, both. Whatever you see, it might happen, is not truth because you have not listened to it. Whatever you have heard but you have not seen, it means there is a chance of it. So it was said that journalists should not blindly follow anything. He should be aware of, he should be open-minded, with open ear. He should understand the situation, then he should write down. He argued that newspaper should lead the way by setting example for the people. There is a clear example of the agitation of the farmers which is going on. If this issue has taken up seriously prior to it, the situation would not come up, what it is happening right now. Now every media is covering only one news, agitation of farmers. And what was happening earlier, nobody was covering it. So that because of, the agitation has become so inflamed. So they are saying like the duty of a journalist is, if you want to become a good journalist, if you want to run on a short path, then you can choose these things. Essentially, it's not like yellow journalism or paying somebody or sending something false news is. Then there will be a short and fast journey, but you will be out of. If you want to become a good journalist, you have to be on the path of truth, and you would see success will definitely come in your way. That is what Ambedkar and Gandhi has said. So that is the end of our today's lecture. We discussed the role of Dr. Ambedkar and Mr. Gandhi as journalists. So notes are in your Google Classroom. If you want to read those notes, you can read from there. And recorded lectures are also there. In today's lecture, it is already recorded, so you can even get that from there. That's all from today's lecture. Let me stop the recording. And if you have any of the question, you can ask. कोई question